Next up, what is the perfect SPF for winter and summer? Okay, the reality is, the sun, winter or summer, the rays are always damaging us, regardless. So an SPF is essential year-round. A lot of people actually, believe it or not, neglect SPF in the winter, and it's the silliest thing that people can do. So I love that you're asking, what is the perfect one? Honestly, I tend to wear a 28 or a 30 year-round, and sometimes I will wear a little bit more on my body when it comes to summertime, but a 28 to a 30 is actually pretty much ideal, and it's a very common number recommended by dermatologists, plastic surgeons, and the like. If you sit yourself at an SPF 30, you're getting a perfect amount of coverage, you will be safe. But the thing is, what you actually really have to do, and is unfortunate, particularly if you're wearing a face full of makeup, you need to reapply. SPF only works for a few hours. That's the reality of it. It reaches a maximum point, or we sweat it off, or we absorb it, or it reaches its time with us. So you do have to reapply, but a 28 or a 30 is really ideal year-round. If you're incredibly fair and you tend to burn easy, you know what, bump it up a little bit, but as long as you're around 28 and 30, you're fine. Something like 15 is adequate, it's okay, and SPF is better than using no SPF, but something around 30, pretty much perfect. Very good question. Alright, next up, what is a good mascara for making lashes long, full, and have a great curl? That's a lot to ask for in a single mascara, since most mascaras tend to be lengthening or, adding volume, thickening. So my advice to you, honestly, sometimes you have to use two. You really do. Sometimes you have to get all your thickness from one mascara, and you have to get your length from another. My favorite mascara across the board came to me on Project Runway. When I was working on Project Runway, L'Oreal was the sponsor, and I fell madly in love with Voluminous mascara. I had never used it before. I was buying very expensive mascaras, and Voluminous has done every single thing that I could ever want in a mascara. It's my staple, it's my go-to. I have used countless others, and I love it. What one of the secrets is, and you can take L'Oreal's Voluminous, if you go in and you give it a nice wiggle at the bottom, you're really going to get some lift and thickness. And then if you pull it out and twist while you go, you're going to get some great curl. And if you set the wand on top of the lashes and you twist, you'll curl the lashes up in, and you'll get even more curl. Then go to the other one, repeat, and then come back and flick the edges, and they'll get nice and long. All of that can be done with L'Oreal Voluminous. All of that can be done with pretty much any really good mascara, but my secret favorite that you can buy in any drugstore is L'Oreal Voluminous. I love it. That's my secret. Alright. So what do you do when you are working on an eye that is completely different than your eye shape or the eyes that you have worked on? The question is, do you do it exactly the same, or do you do what's appropriate for that eye? The truth is, you do what's appropriate for that eye. But how do you do it? Here's the truth. Follow the bones. All you have to do is trust the bones. Yeah, if somebody's eye's protruding, there are certain colors that might make it look a little better, recess the lid a little bit. That's ways that you can experiment and learn and grow as your artistry grows and improves. If somebody's eyes are too close together, there's ways that you can pull them further out by bringing the shadow out. Same thing with bringing, with eyes that are too far apart, you can bring them closer in. It's all in how you play with the shadow, and you're going to learn and develop that as you play as an artist. But now, to stick to your question, how do we, work on different eye shapes and types? You just have to go for it. The reality is, an eye is an eye. Are there things that you can do? Say you're working, you know, on an Asian eye, and so much of the lid is covered when the eye opens up. Often it looks just fantastic to play. You can play with colors by sweeping one color up here, another up here. You can still work in, you know, a color here, blend it into a different color right there. You can do a beautiful smoky eye. That just graduates, you know, across, or is just a solid color and then smokes up a little bit. Anything can be done to any different eye shape. And always remember, the crease is always the same on people's eyes. It's always where the bone, I know I must look ridiculous doing this, but it's always where the bone falls. That's where it is, right there. That's the crease of the eye. So you can always follow and trust the bones, and that'll show you how to do a perfect eye application on everybody, regardless of the eye that they have in front of you. But the truth is, your confidence is going to build in that when you try and experiment. That's why, particularly with my students and the ones that I work with, I always say, I put a challenge to you. Practice on as many people as you can, as often as you can. That's the only way your confidence and skill is going to grow. You have to. Ask to work on people who are very different than the people that you normally work on. And the other reason, you know, that the eyes could be different is when skin matures, the skin moves. But one thing that never does move is the bones. That's why I'm telling you that the bones are really the secret, the key to flawless makeup application. What do we always try to pop out and make look bigger and more dramatic? Where do we put some sink in and some rise? We show off these bones. We show off this bone, these bones right here. So many things. Bones are beauty. They're also a roadmap. Excellent question. Okay, our next question is about, you know, whether or not it's okay, you know, to use brow stencils on people who might not have eyebrows due to chemotherapy or other things. And sometimes eyebrows just go away with age, or overplucking, or improper waxing, and countless other things. And yes, it's absolutely 100% acceptable to use an eyebrow stencil. You sure can. Now, I'm going to combine this slightly with another question. We have another student who asks, you know, I can't manage to perfect the eyebrow. Now, I love the first and foremost that you say, there are so many things that you're great with. I love that confidence. I really respect it. And I also equally respect the fact that you can say, there's something I'm struggling with. Now, whether you choose to link back to the first question, use a stencil, which is completely acceptable, you can also build the brow by just following the fundamentals of brow building. Everybody has a bone here. It's called the brow bone. Now, in order to do a perfect brow, take your pencil, set it at the corner of your nose, go right through the tear duct, and that's where the eyebrow should begin. So if you choose not to use a stencil, you can easily put the brow on. Then, keeping it right at the corner of the eye, go right through the pupil, and that's where the arch should be. See, it's exactly where my arch is? Now, go to the corner of the eye and look at right where the eyebrow ends. That is how you create an eye. And every single bit of it, if you just touch the person's bones, it follows the slope of the bone. So you can create a perfect, beautiful eyebrow and not even use a stencil at all. Or you can create it with a stencil if you feel you're a little bit nervous because there's nothing at all there. But making it look incredibly natural comes down to the color choice that you use. If somebody has no eyebrows at all, or if you're really trying to fill in somebody's brow and you want it to be really natural, with all shades of brown and black hair, you have to use a powder that is 1, 2, or 3 shades lighter than the person's natural hair color for filling in a brow. If someone's blonde, you use a color that's a little bit darker, because blondes always have darker eyebrows. Otherwise, they'd essentially have none at all. Now, in order to make them look supernatural, sometimes you have to do sweep flicks of color, mimic hair. And you can use it with a powder, you can do it with a pencil, but fine little tiny lines, draw in each hair one by one, and then use a second shade and put in other colors to create the shadow and the look. But little tiny flicks. Follow the pattern of hair and look at the way they grow. Here they start to grow up, then they start to grow back, then they grow down. That's the same way that you will create an eyebrow. Either option works really, really, really well. Those are two fantastic questions, and brows are an amazing thing to master. And they can take a long time, but they can also be something that you can build an entire career on. Great question. Okay, this next question is, should I dive right into taking the course here at QC, or should I practice on my friends and family so that I can make the most of the course? Here's what you should do. You should sign up for the course right away, and you should then begin practicing as much as you can, as often as you can, on as many people as you can with the proper techniques that you will be taught in the course. Because if you are, teaching yourself or perhaps learning from YouTube tutorials, many of which do a great job, but a lot of which don't really understand the true fundamentals of training, you can get some pretty darn bad habits. And those bad habits can be very difficult to break. If you come as a clean slate and you allow us the opportunity to give you the scaffold for perfect application from the ground up, you will be able to grow infinitely as an artist. And then the more people you work on, the better off you will be, and you will grow in leaps and bounds. The second part of this question is, I want my clients to be pleased. Well, if you want your clients to be pleased, listen to them. Give them what they want. And the way that you're going to be able to do that is by practicing. When you practice, your confidence grows. You are able to do more and more and more, and you're able to do it effortlessly. Makeup is a skill, and unlike any others, just like every other skill, it can be learned and it can be mastered. You just have to put in the time, the effort, and the energy. When you listen to what your clients want and you have the ability to deliver it, which you will have from all your practice, you will never, ever, ever have a person who's disappointed. So my advice to you, sign up right away and let us teach you from the ground up so that you can do perfect, flawless, stunning applications.